ever been in my entire life. And like Jason, I was kind of like feeling the same about just, you didn't deserve a fucking country, you didn't deserve a political party, you didn't deserve fucking anything. You've completely and utterly destroyed us. But the people since then, in terms of the campaign, the working people and stuff like that, has been absolutely phenomenal. You see the political parties, the decent political parties getting huge numbers of members and stuff like that. And that does encourage me, because I think if we do get a mandate at the next general election, independence is going to become a certainty. People need to understand that. There will be a mandate for independence if we obliterate Labour at this general election. And finally, the other thing I wanted to say about it was that on Tuesday I went to see a production of Borstal Boy, which I'm sure you will know, listeners will know, is a book based on a book written by Brendan Behan. And absolutely fantastic production. 3 hours of just raw talent for a cast that just, were absolutely superb. But Brendan Behan has a famous quote that's said throughout the play, and that he said when he came back to Dublin after being in Liverpool for 3 years, being in prison after being caught on active service. And the immigration officer at Dublin said something to him that is exactly how I felt on Friday morning. This is when he came off the boat, and he says, "Oh, Brendan," he says, "it must be good to be free." To which Brendan Behan replied, "Yeah, it must."
Right. It's just, it beggars belief. It just beggars belief. And then see when you look at the demographics of how the country voted. I mean, you can have bet your bottom dollar on them doing the borders, but Highlanders and stuff like that. I mean, the bit that got me, I think we're talking this off here, 15% of SNP voters voted no. How, somebody want to explain to me how that comes about?
And election results, no votes in Gaelic in the Western Isles being read out. I mean, actually reading out a result saying the Western Isles voted no in Gaelic. And you're just like, fucking irony doesn't even become into any of this. But what I would say, Jason, sorry, just to cut you up, is the fucking well done, fair play, and pats on the back to fucking Glasgow, and to North Lanarkshire, and to Western Bartonshire and Dundee. Now, Glasgow, we know, so North Lanarkshire, Dundee. Western Bartonshire, where Trident is, didn't give a fuck about their jobs or that. They still voted for the people. That's the attitude that we need in this country. Not all these pricks have voted with their pocket up in Aberdeenshire and all that, and it's no worth the risk and all that kind of thing. Thinking about the lies you were told about Trident, that all the jobs that you would lose because losing Trident, well, the people of West Dunbartonshire voted yes, and that's what we need to be inspired by.
See, one thing that I found pretty odd, Glasgow only had a 75% turnout. And I find that really odd. Not unless people were, I don't know, what would you have done? Because there was a lassie who worked next to me and she was totally undecided. Seen the last day, she still did. She says she voted yes, so I believe that she probably did vote yes. She's no reason to lie. But what would you have done if you were totally undecided? Would you have no voted? Because I didn't really know. She was asking me the question, what should I do? And I'm like, well, vote yes, obviously. But she was saying to me, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, you need to make a decision. So, I don't know. I said, maybe no voting's the right thing. See if you're totally, because she's going, look, there might be meeny, miny. I said, well, don't do that, for God's sake. I don't know.
It's a strange one. I mean, I know at my polling station, the Labour Party were there in the morning, and it was, the signs were, if you don't know, vote no, and it's no worth the risk. And they actually said to me, they walked in, can we count on your vote? I said, he said, can we count on your support? This was a local MSP. Can we count on your support in the polling booth? I says, well, I've never fucking counted on your support, so you'll never get mine. And just walked in, and I just felt disgraceful. Even at that time, you say, oh, it's no worth the risk. And it has to be said that I think, as we say, younger people voted yes in their thousands, 16, 18-year-olds, and fair play to them. Older people voted no, and I just wonder if it's because now in this generation, younger people are more informed than older people, and that's why they voted yes.
I would totally agree with that. I can see online that the yes vote was also doing all sorts of research. People were coming up with everything. You were reading up and everything. And by the end of it, you were totally convinced that yes was the right move. You know, it wasn't just because of your principles. You were actually thinking it was the best thing for this country. And even those selfish clowns that were voting against you, you thought to yourself, this will be the best thing for them. Mm-hmm. But it's just... You look at the over 60s stuff like that. None of them have got the internet. They still buy the Daily Record and they believe everything that's in it. You know, and it's just you kind of pity them. You know, it's rather than hate them, you just want to kind of pity them because it's like they're probably living in a wee bubble that they think's very good. But you just say to yourself, how subversive have you came, and they just depend on the British state to. You know, put them in their place, and then they take any scraps that are left with.
Aye, and what happened? I mean, remember the thing that all the No campaign newspapers printed, the vow. This is what will happen on September 19th. Where's that? What's happened to it?
They're backtracking. They're arguing over it now.
It's never going to fucking happen.
The thing is, you've got Gordon Brown up there. That guy's never had any power.
I know.
You know what I mean? He's never had any, and he's telling you this and that. That Miliband stutter and get is telling you this, you that. Labour haven't got any power. How can they tell you what they're going to do? They're never going to get in again.
Well, I mean, actually, there's a guy in my college who was covering when he was there when the 100 Labour MPs came up to Glasgow, and he said it was his first close-hand look at Ed Miliband, and he says the guy is fucking clueless. He said they get to Buchanan Street, the Buchanan Galleries, and so they had all the no voters behind them on the steps. And, of course, for the cameras and all that, Miliband wanted to make it look as though he was surrounded by no supporters. But, of course, on the other side of that, he's got all the fucking yes voters who are kind of jeering him and shouting at him and all that kind of thing. And he stands and addresses his name with all his no voters behind him. And the first thing he says is, friends. To which everybody is like, fuck off, you know. And he was just like, he just didn't... So, and that is, I mean, Gordon Brown, you know, a year ago, the man said, I'm not involved in politics anymore. You're an MP still, Gordon. Aye, but the electorate told me, you know, whatever. And now he's up fucking making speeches, guaranteeing powers. Never even spoke to Ed Balls, never spoke to anybody about it, and just said, we'll do this, we'll do that. He's a fucking backbench MP. He's got to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the only thing I would say to Gordon Brown, just before he gets too smug, he represents Kirkcaldy, which was a 72% yes vote.
Aye. And he actually, the word in the street was he was in a community centre in Easterhouse telling pensioners that if they voted yes, they would lose their pension.
And people should also be aware of the fact that for the speeches he'd done in the last 2 weeks, he made himself £347,000. That's what he charged. So,
right. I tell you what, we don't normally take calls. Obviously, we cancelled that, but somebody's managed to climb over the fence and get through the snake pit. Snake Plissken, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, lads.
You wanted to call in on this. I suppose it's important. We're not taking any more calls. This guy Snake just managed to get through all
he's got the password.
All the barriers. So here we'll probably wrapping this up pretty soon because I mean we can go on here all night about this because it is shocking. But Snake, I mean, another sort of opinion on it. I mean, you wanted to come in on this. What did you want to say?
Well, because I'm Snake Plissken, I managed to escape for the UK. So there's another thing there. As you all know, lads, I don't live in Scotland, and I am deeply, deeply upset with it. I mean, I'm going to put my cards on the table. I've always been a Scottish nationalist. I don't pretend I'm anything other than that. I've always voted SNP because I believed in Scotland being an independent country. And I've now seen things that have broke my heart in this last few weeks. I mean, when you look at the places that voted yes, they contain some of the worst poverty in Europe.
Yeah.
And I saw a tweet for a wee lassie that sent out something talking about that and said, they folk cried for help and the 55% fucked them over. And that just, as soon as I read that, I couldn't stop crying for about half an hour. And I just thought to myself, what is this becoming? And when you're talking about your older generation, I'll tell you a wee story. You remember in 97 when we were having the Parliament election, referendum? My grandmother said to me, how do you want me to vote, son? I said, what do you mean it's your vote? I was 18, I could vote, you know. And she said, I've had my life, I'm 74. Anything that comes out of this Parliament, isn't going to impact on me that much, but it's going to impact on you and your brother and your generation, because it's for you. I don't think folk my age should even have this vote. But since we do, I think we should be asking our grandwains what they want. And I've always been struck by that. And I've always thought to myself, if more folk of that age turned round and said that to their grandwains before that vote the other day, what difference would that have made?
Aye, you're right, mate, and that is what's killed us, basically. Do you know, my mum voted yes. She hadn't really a clue, but she was going to vote, and then until we started sort of climbing in her head and telling her she better vote yes. But her and her wee pal that she walks to chapel with on a Sunday, both of them voted yes. And the wee woman goes to some sewing bee or whatever, her wee pal, and every one of them was voting no. Do you know, just for selfish reasons about their pensions. Probably every one of them have got grandkids, but they never took that into account. That's not as important.
Well, let's take a few things into account since the vote. Never mind the vow. The Labour Party today, in the last 2 days, are tweeting about saving the NHS for the Tories. Now, let's just get something straight. They called and repeated in every fucking paper in the land that was a nationalist lie. There was no lie in it. Who's the fucking liars now?
They've no shame, the Labour Party. Labour Party are absolutely finished in Scotland.
And you know what? I'm well behind all these moves to get them out. Because I almost jumped in a bloody plane the other day to come home, I can assure you, to join the bloody SNP. I'm really, really that upset about it, you know.
Tell me about it, mate. Tell me about it. You know,
think about this and all, though, guys. Think about the future of how the tuition fees and all the rest of it. The older generation, this particular older generation, sailed through life. They're the generation post-war that got your NHS, that got your free tuition to go to university and the grant, let me throw that in there and all. They got everything given to them. And now what we're going to see is eventually we're going to see the tuition fees, if the Labour Party do ever get any power in Scotland again, they're eventually going to see that hammering the young folk with the poorer backgrounds who do want to go to university with the ability to do so. This is a cataclysmic, vile thing these people have done, and they need to be reminded of it every single day. Next illegal war, don't you moan. You voted for it. Next time the Waynes, your grandwains are crying because they can't go to a university or a college because they can't get any funding, you did this, and you had the power to change this, and you didn't. And I think people should be telling them that.
Well, see on the tuition fees thing, Steve, it's a real bugbear of mine, because I believe, as we touched on earlier, that the more people were, this is a fact, you can go and check, anybody can go and check this up, the more informed people were about this debate, the more they voted yes. Simple as that, right? Therefore, I think that the people who are going to establish the most hard questions and things like that are the educated people. And so the governments didn't want to be asked hard questions. So what do? They make education, you have to pay a fee, or worse, you have to get straddled with debt. So by the time you've went through your university education and that, you've probably got about 40 grand of debt. And I'm telling you right now, you're less liable to fucking question things, and you're more liable to be worried about debt for the rest of your life. And that's how they keep educated people doing, by straddling them with debt. Noam Chomsky's talked about it for years. You keep them doing because it's the same thing in Ireland. Tony Blair worked it out. Give them hussies, give them jobs, give them money. Why? Because they're less likely to be revolutionaries if they've got something.
Aye, I absolutely agree with you there, Paul. I mean, that was the thing. You saddle folk with debt, and then when they get a job, they're not going to cause any trouble in that job. They'll just be fumbling along, doing the things, keeping their heads down, no rocking the boat in any political or social situation. And it's control, it's mass control, and it's really, really cut to the core. It's really hurt me badly this week, guys. And I had to say this to somebody, because I've nobody I can bloody tell except for my mother, who phoned me at 7 o'clock in the morning. But she thought I'd just got up to see the results. I was like, no, I couldn't sleep. I was up all night watching the whole thing. I was talking to you and all, Paul, on the thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, the history of this country, right, because we're in this fucking neoliberal nightmare right now. If you take for the Second World War, the Second World War gave us a national health service and a welfare state. But in my opinion, the two greatest achievements of any political party in this country's history. But within 6 years, they voted that party out. And they brought back Churchill, who had, ran on the war ticket, but was an absolutely fucking hopeless fucking Prime Minister. Then what the trade unions were able to do through strength and unity and looking after workers was effectively ensure that every government had to dance to a left-wing tune when they wanted to be elected. Even the Tories had to do it. Ted Heath had to fucking do it. And that ended when Thatcher came in and she started the fucking destruction of the unions. The first one was the printing union, the smallest one, up to the biggest one, the miners. A year before the miners' strike, they had fucking the southern police in southern towns doing practice riots. They knew what they were going to do. They'd stockpiled coal. They were ready for the last fight. In the meantime,